Hello, welcome to Math 3A. My name is Greg Perkins, I'm the instructor. This is the spring of 2026. So my contact information email's up here, gperkins@hartnell.edu. I will have in-person office hours Monday and Wednesdays from 10 to 11 in the main campus, Building S, room number 129. My actual in-person class is there from 8 to 10, and then I always stay the hour after for office hours. Or since this is an online class, you could also contact me and we can meet on Zoom. So the homework and the quizzes are going to be done on MyMathLab. I'm going to actually make a separate video, so please watch that, talking just about MyMathLab and how that works. One thing I will point out on the syllabus, when you go to sign up for MyMathLab, you will need this course ID here. Okay, so let me just skip down to the things we're going to do in this class. There's problem sets, which are one page, if you look at the front and back, one page, a list of problems similar to what we're doing that week. There's also podcast problems. These are the easiest. I basically made videos, fairly short videos, where I just do one problem at a time, one problem for each video. You just watch it, write down what I wrote down to prove that you did it, and turn that in. Then, like I said, there's the MyMathLab homework and quizzes. And then each week there's also a participation quiz, which sometimes I just ask you, how's the class going? How'd you do on that problem set? And sometimes I do actually ask you to explain math. One important thing is that you show all of your work. So it's not just the answers that's important, but I do grade all of the steps. So you do need to show all of your work. And it's definitely better if you handwrite it. Please don't try to type math. You need to handwrite all of your work. Okay, so that's the basics on the syllabus. The other important thing with the syllabus is if you go to the second and third and fourth page, there are all of the due dates for the whole semester. So the very first thing that's due is on Wednesday, January 28th, the first participation quiz on Canvas. And I'll show you this in just a moment once we switch over to Canvas. And so notice that there's something due every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So rather than having a whole bunch of stuff due on a Friday night or something like that, I broke it up. One little thing on Monday, one thing on Wednesday, one thing on Friday. Sometimes there will be two things due, like a problem set and the podcast problems could be due on the same day. But mostly it's one thing each Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So please either print that out or take a screenshot or download it, however you remember things these days. On Canvas, there will be, of course, reminders, and I will email reminders every week also. Now let's move over to Canvas. So the way that the Canvas page is set up is I have this general information right here. Usually after the semester gets going, I put it like this. Okay, so you look at week 1, January 26th through 30th. What's due this week? So this is just a reminder, which we just saw on that paper, something due every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then there'll be links to it, participation quiz, etc. So this will be everything that's due this week. Now let me just go back. So basically you look at what's due this week, and then there's going to be the lectures will be right here in that same week. So you could either look at the PDF version, and basically as I made the video, this is the piece of paper that I was working on, and then I just scanned it once I was done making the video. So if you want to use that to follow along with the video, that can be helpful. And then for each and every section, there's also a video lecture, which is, all right, here we go, the first section of which is on YouTube. So notice that I face the camera down. You don't necessarily need to see my face while doing math. So that way you can concentrate on seeing the math, as well as when I use the calculator. And go to y equals, and then type in negative x. So then I show you how to use the calculator. Of course, if you want to use Desmos or something like that, that's fine. But personally, I use a TI-84. So that's what I'll be using in those lectures. All right, let's go back to Canvas. So the idea is that you would watch the video lectures. There's also extra examples from each section. That's not a video, that's just PDF. But definitely watch the videos, and then you would be ready to do the homework. We're going to do about 2, sometimes 3, but usually 2 sections per week. So it would just be 2 videos. And then you would do the MyMathLab homework. So like I said, I'm going to do a separate video for the MyMathLab, but you would then watch the videos and then do the MyMathLab homework. And then when it comes time for problem set, so for example, it's due on Monday, the following Monday, but then I put it down here at the bottom of the week saying, hey, next Monday, this is due. So problem set number 1 is actually a review of algebra and trigonometry. So the type of algebra that we use in calculus, like we use these things for limits. If you don't know limits, don't worry about it. This is just algebra at this point. A little bit of pre-calculus, a little bit of trigonometry on the second side. Well, also right next to that, there's a video that I make based on those.
Hello, everyone.
So basically this one is a slightly different version, like I changed the numbers and stuff like that, but I basically do the same type of problems and I show you how to do them. It's just that the actual problems are slightly different, but these videos should really help you do the problem sets. Okay, so let's see, what else have we got? So whenever you do the problem sets, you will need to go over here to assignments. Well, first, you'll need to take a picture of your work and create a PDF. And if you're not sure how to do that, then please go here. So this is actually this guy right here. I just found he's a community college teacher, and then he's showing you not only how to, for free with your phone, create a PDF, but then he shows you how to load it up to Canvas. So anyway, you would go to assignments, and then you would say, I'm ready to turn in problem set number 1. And then right about here would be, it would say, for the students, it would say, submit your work. If I go to student view right now it's actually January 20th, and the class doesn't start for another 5 or 6 days. So if I go to student view, it's just going to say class hasn't started yet, but there would be a button right here for you to upload your work. And again, I emphasize, please handwrite your solutions and show all of your steps. Okay, then every Wednesday there's a participation quiz, and like I said, the participation quizzes sometimes will just ask you, especially at the beginning, ask you information about yourself, make sure that we are communicating back and forth at least once per week. So the first is just basically information about yourself, and then there will be some times when the participation quiz asks you to do some math. And most of the time when it's a math question, I still go in and grade it myself. I don't have Canvas grade it. If it's just a simple answer, like the answer is going to be 42 and everybody's going to get 42, I'll have Canvas grade it. But most all of them, I go and grade one at a time, each person's quiz. Okay, so that's basically how Canvas works. So each week I'll move the week that we're working on right up here. So basically when you first log on to the Canvas homepage, what's due this week is all available right here. Now some extra information is, for example, the podcast problems. So first of all, if you go to the Math 3A information right here, you can look at the podcast problems. And this is where basically for each section, I made up an example that I thought, okay, that's important for this section. So for each section, and even after you watch the lecture for section 2.1, you might want to come over here and do the podcast problems for that section. And so that you just have those 2 examples already done. And then when they're due, you'll already have them done. So you can also go to my YouTube channel right there. YouTube, Hartnell College Math is my YouTube channel. Or if you look right next to where I had the podcast problems, then there's the link to the podcast problems. So there they all are. We end up doing 1 through 85 during the semester. There are 100 of them, but we do 1 through 85. And similar to the lecture, I've got the camera pointed down so you can see all of the steps and all of the work and even how I use the calculator. And then you write down what I write down, and then you'll be turning that in. Let me go back to the syllabus. The first time is Monday, February 16th for podcasts 1 through 15. So like I said, when you do section 2.1, you could do those two. When you do 2.2, you could do number 3 and number 4. Or you could just wait until Monday, February 16th and do all 15 of them at once. And everything is due by midnight or 11:59 p.m. So you have until the end of that day whenever it says that something's due. All right, let me look back at the syllabus. No late work. Since all of the dates are here, you can, if you realize you're going to be gone on a Monday, you could go ahead and turn stuff in early. On Canvas, I open things a week before it's due, so you can always work ahead. All right, that's pretty much how the class works. Please email me if you have any questions. I'm now going to make the video for my math lab, so the first thing I need to do is copy this. All right, so take a break and then go watch the video for my math lab.